Welcome and thank you for joining us this evening for tonight's episode of St. Ben's at Home. My name is Marcia Malum and I am the Director of Alumni Relations and a St. Ben's alumna from the class of 1996. I'd like to begin our time together this evening by sharing our land acknowledgement. Both the College of St. Benedict and St. John's University occupy the original homelands of the Dakota and Anishinaabe peoples. We honor, respect, and acknowledge the Indigenous peoples forcibly removed from this territory, whose connections remain today. St. Benedict's Monastery and St. John's Abbey previously operated boarding schools for Native children. Now, students, faculty, and staff are working to repair relationships with our Native Nation neighbors. Thank you. Towards the end of this evening's episode, there will be time for questions. So if you have anything that you'd like to ask Dana, Mary, Kiera, or Heather, please click the Ask a Question button at the bottom of your screen to submit your question. Please note, you may need to exit out of the full screen view in order to use the Ask a Question button. Tonight's session is being recorded and will be posted on our Alum Learning Consortium's past event recordings page in the next 1 to 2 business days. Now, please welcome our moderator, Heather Piper Olson, College of St. Benedict Vice President of Institutional Advancement.
Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening for St. Ben's at Home. Tonight, we're covering a very special topic on St. Ben's at Home and celebrating a special milestone at the same time. This year marks the 25th anniversary of the first ever celebration of Bennie Day. I find it hard to imagine that Bennie Day didn't always exist. I've heard stories and know the people who began the tradition, but I've never really dug into the origins and the purpose of Bennie Day and explored why this tradition still matters today. So we're going to do that tonight. We've got several special treats that make this episode of St. Ben's at Home a little different than others. Our set looks a little different, and we're stretching our technology to the West Coast. Tonight, we are joined by 3 special guests, 2 right here live on set, and 1 live from Bainbridge Island in Washington State. Let's meet them all now. It is my pleasure to introduce Dana Kelly Fitzpatrick. Dana was a class of 2002 management major. She currently is a global real estate advisor with Realogic Sotheby's International Realty. She lives on Bainbridge Island in Washington State with her husband, Matt, and 5 children. Dana was on the St. Ben's Senate in 2000 and is credited with being the founder and original organizer of the first ever Bennie Day celebration. Welcome, Dana.
Thanks for having me.
We're excited to have you. And live on set with us tonight is the CSB and SJU Associate Provost for Student Success, Mary Geller, who's been on campus for every single Bennie Day celebration so far. And current CSB student and CSB Senate Community Relations Representative Kiera Hirano, class of 2027. Welcome, Mary and Kiera.
Thanks, Heather.
We have so much to talk about. So, of course, we'll save time for questions at the end. And honestly, we absolutely encourage you to send us questions and comments for sure. So we would also love to hear from all of you of your Bennie Day traditions and your memories. So feel free to submit them too in the question section as well. All right, so let's get started. Dana, we're going to start with you. You've had the perspective now as an alumna celebrating Bennie Day out in the world. What is it about this tradition that's made it last for 25 years?
I think a clear need. When I think about incoming Bennies coming in, and I know for myself coming in, and I would assume other Bennies as they come in, is that, there's a lot of options for college experiences, and there's something about having one that's uniquely feminine. I think this idea of sisterhood and strong sisterhood at that is, and living in community is really, I think, more radical than we realize. And so I think for many folks, it's that idea of like having a tradition that's your own, and thinking about what it is that is really meaningful to the individual. And I think as much as we think about the Benny Johnny experience, there is kind of a uniquely Benny experience.
It's very, very true. I think that's it's one of the beautiful things. As somebody from outside the community, it's one of the things that has been so meaningful for me is that celebration of sisterhood of women and of the things that are really uniquely St. Ben's. So, Mary, you've often talked about the importance of carving out space for St. Ben's students to have their own traditions and spaces. In this time of strong integration at St. Ben's, St. John's, is this still important today? And if so, why?
That's a good question. I do think it's important. It's one of the reasons, we didn't merge, right? I mean, we were very intentional about having strong integration, which we hear is not a lesson in symmetry. We both have our own founding communities. We both have kind of our own histories, and we wanted to make sure that we kept them and honored them. And I think a lot about what Dana just talked about. It's kind of the concept of a room of one's own. That it's important for St. Ben's to have and to keep its own identity. Not that it can't be in relationship with St. John's, but we know that that there's something special that happens when women are among each other and they help role model for each other, and they befriend each other, and they see each other as leaders and supporters. I think that's one of the reasons why it's important. Otherwise, we'd be like any other institution.
Yeah, it really is something that makes us unique too. And the research is also really clear too, that women who achieve those levels of success often have that idea of a kitchen cabinet, right? I mean, that idea of those women who have long-standing friendships with other women that go through transitions, the place that you can connect, ground yourself, that really, when we're talking about objective success, that's actually one of those key components for women too. So, Dana, you've often talked about the power of not compromising the year that Bennie Day was born. Can you talk a little bit about identity and the power of not compromising, or at least not compromising in relationship to Bennie Day?
Well, I think as we'll talk later about how Bennie Day came to be, I think a lot of this comes down to this idea of like the history and the continuing evolution of CSBSJU. And of course, I watch that now as an alumna, and at the time was really involved with Student Senate and a variety of different groups. But how easy it is for like small decisions institutionally to become much larger ramifications. So it's just these ripple effects of how we think about these small compromises or these small collaborations. And as we step back to look at what is the pattern of collaboration and how is that really ultimately honoring the college that the alumni attended. I know when I was a student, and I had some great leadership opportunities, and had some opportunity to meet some trustees of the college, and their experience as Bennies felt so archaic in a way. Like I remember thinking like, wow, like and they would talk about like the number of sisters that were involved, and and like sister this and sister that, and it felt really quaint and like just a really different college experience than what I had. And then as I think about how I would probably describe my college experience to Kiera now, I would think that it probably has the same like level of quaint and like, oh, isn't that sweet? And I think for me, like a lot of those relationships were sisters and were Mary Geller, and and how that has evolved. But I think if we step back and say like, well, how has that shaped this symmetric relationship, or this evolution as the non-joining of the colleges, what is that pattern, and like where do the Bennies stand in terms of that? And I think that's probably a pretty interesting evolution, and probably something I would love to hear more about.
So let's maybe talk a little bit about that. So Mary, as again, as a student development expert, as somebody who is a role model often, how do you help students, and maybe Kiera can talk a little bit about this, how it plays out? How do you decide when to compromise on things in this and when not to, especially as that's a kind of constantly evolving sort of opportunity in strong integration and life, really, let's be frank.
Yeah. Well, I think it has really sped up in strong integration,
Yeah.
right? I mean, because we are doing more and more together, but we've said it's not a lesson in symmetry. So, I think some of the traditions that we have, like the candle lighting, like the Christmas tree lighting, where we play off of our motto, Sic Lucia Lux Vestra, so let your light shine. And I think that the reason that survives is because it really resonates with our students. A lot of women tend to be more humble about who they are, and like we're telling them, no, like claim your voice and claim your space and be proud of who you are and what you can accomplish. And so I think that I think it's not a matter of teaching them to compromise, but instead to stand in their truth and to stand in their strength and to live life unapologetically.
I totally want to talk on that too, because I think living it now in like the world that we are in, especially, but being here and as you said, Dana, like being a part of this sisterhood, I mean, it's something that you really can't find anywhere else. Like I'm never going to find the friendships that I found here or the relationships with the actual sisters that I have as well. And I think a big part of like taking up space and learning not to compromise is when you feel strongly about something, go for it and do it and say that you're going to do it and then follow through with it and such, because that's a big thing about standing firm on your word, because then it shows that you're trustworthy and you're also willing to follow through, and that helps you to be the person that you want to become. So I think,
and you have this whole sisterhood to lean on,
Yes,
right?
yes.
To support you in doing
exactly.
that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think that sort of goes back to the idea of these friendships are grounded here, formed here in this moment, and they continue, right? All of those discernment points as you go forward in your career, as a partner, as a mother, as a community member, having those places to sort of check yourself and, the confidence that comes with having, people who truly know you and are grounded in the same values, and then can also say, hey, you need to speak up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So we're going to pivot a little bit. We're going to talk t-shirts. But there's such a huge part, I think, of this and the fun and the sort of celebration of it. So Dana, can you tell us a little bit about the very first Bennie Day t-shirt? What was special about it? How did they kind of catch on?
Yeah, so I think when we started Bennie Day originally, it was kind of a counter program to Johnny Hot Bread Night. And it was originally kind of assumed that we would want to just start our own hot bread night. And I remember feeling like a little bit shocked and disappointed, and like I should be saying like, well, thank you. Like I would love to take on that tradition that's not ours and do it. But realizing, how easy it would be to reassign a tradition that was never ours in the absence of our own. And finding common ground, I think, can be challenging and sometimes is a really cool opportunity to find our own identity. But I also realized that for it to be like a true institutional program and not just, I guess, a feeble counter program, that it had to have a weight and it had to have identity and it had to have mass. And so one of the things we came up with was these very, very cheap t-shirts. And I remember we sold them, I think, for $1.75. I think that was how much they cost to print, and we sold them at the cost. And I remember, I don't know if you remember this conversation, Mary, but I remember having a conversation with you specifically, but they were a joke. Like they were a joke about the Johnny Block t-shirts. It was like Johnny's. And at the time, we were the Blazers. And we picked the girliest script and like the girliest color that we thought people would actually wear. And I remember Mary saying like, hey, Dana, these are kind of girly. And I was like, yeah, they are. Yeah, super girly. And I mean, honestly, this is back in like 2000. I think we did, I think the font was like available on Microsoft Word. I mean, this was not a this was high-tech program at all. It was like Times New Roman script or something, it was of the 16 font choices available then. But a lot of it came down to like saying, if this is going to have any legs, like we need to have true identity. Like it needs to have like a true hook. And I think part of it was that we sold them at such a compelling price. And part of it was just like the real need of like, there's the Johnnies and like, we were the Blazers, and, if you weren't in athletics, maybe that meant something or didn't mean something. But just like, it became really kind of almost like this cultural component that we printed a couple hundred, which led to a couple hundred more, and it became people's like gifts for their siblings for Christmas. Like I've seen them at the Twin Cities Marathon. Like I mean, it's interesting. Like I saw a Benny shirt in Seattle once. And so, I mean, and I think it just started as this, like little symbol of something to say like, nope, this is going to be real. And then really, caught wind and became a real thing.
So,
I have a question that I
sure,
think
Marcia. Marcia has a
fits-
question.
that fits here from Mary of class of 94. But to go along with this conversation, Mary, you were here obviously for that first Benny Day too. And what do you remember about that celebration and the start of that tradition, kind of building off of what Dana is sharing from your experience?
I was trying to think back to that particular one. And I just remember Dana being really passionate about it and her reasons for doing it. And at that time too, I think it was just really trying to claim the Benny identity, and to just be and celebrate it, right? And stand firm in it. What I also just want to say too is that evolved a little bit over time as we looked at homecoming week, and everything seemed to be centered at St. John's because of football, as it should be. But a lot of Bennies were participating, and we really saw Benny Day as being a unique way of celebrating St. Ben's and Bennies within the tradition of homecoming week. And then that became really important is when we moved to Bennies, and then it was what is it? Everybody's no. Once a Benny, always a Benny.
Yeah.
And then that's what became kind of our stance of like, we're here during homecoming and we're going to celebrate St. Ben's in particular on this Thursday. And then many years later, Johnny Day was added, which was kind of redundant because all week is Johnny week during homecoming, as it should be because of football. But St. Ben's really stuck to Benny Day because it meant something in a week when otherwise they were probably not necessarily I don't want to say called out, but like lifted up maybe.
Yeah. Dana, if you want to share just a little bit about sort of what was the original impetus too. I mean, I've been here now 16 and a half, almost 17 years, and seen sort of that pride and Benny identity, or even the claiming of the name. But at the time, I know enough to know that at the time, that wasn't necessarily, you've kind of hinted at it a little bit. There were Blazers, Bennies. There's a whole history that we know about different generations, sort of Bennies sort of representing them. So tell us a little bit about really what it was like in that year and what drove Senate to organize it.
Well, so that year I was serving as the president of the St. Ben Senate, and we were, I think at that point, it'd been just a couple years that they were even doing like the joint funding, and there's kind of these murky areas of like where the student funds were collaborative and where the student funds were separate. And so at that point, the executive committees were really trying to make a concerted effort to meet together. And when we started talking about, the coordinate relationship and the programming for the year, we started talking about homecoming. And at that point, I think it was a pretty short time frame from the beginning of the year to when homecoming was. And so we were looking at the calendar, and I remember having this moment of, looking at the calendar and then seeing like, okay, Monday we're doing this, and Tuesday we're doing this, and Wednesday doing this. And I don't remember, Mary, if it was to that point that was all at St. John's, but I remember thinking like, okay, this is joint-ish and this is joint-ish. But then seeing hot bread night on the calendar and being like, whoa, that's not us. Like the other things, like a movie night or like a powder puff game or, whatever the tradition was that the programming was, felt collaborative and joint. And for whatever reason, that just struck me as kind of shocking. And I was like, that's not our tradition. Like that is so clearly a Johnny tradition, is hot bread night. And I was like, there is Benny bread, but I go, that's not like, there's nothing built around that. And having them go like, well, here you go. Like, and this kind of benign assumption that we should just say, thank you. Like, oh, thank you. I would love to do hot bread night. That would be great for us. Like, and just kind of disappointed and shocked. And then kind of thinking about, well, what is it that we have? And like there were things that I don't know that are there, but like, you know, there were Benny bars and there was like, you know, kind of these like midnight breakfasts, and you know, there were traditions, but they didn't have that same sort of weight as
Yeah.
the hot bread night. And that's kind of what got me thinking around like, well, like what is shared identity and what is our identity? And I don't know that I ever thought it would become a 25-year tradition. And I remember meeting with like the St. Ben Sonnets and being like, this is not okay. Like, we are not doing this. Like, and everyone else being like, no, we are not hot bread night. We are not hot bread night. And it just kind of became this like little quiet protest, you know, and a little bit ironic. And it is kind of cool now to see how that has like flowered into this like broader tradition. One of the things that I think was really important to the success of our little protest was the Benedictine Friends. And I don't know if that's still a program on campus, but
Absolutely.
but I think one of the things that I think is important in the history just to know is that they had that date. And so I had gone to, so looking at the calendar, I was like, okay, well, we are Thursday. Like that is the date that is hot bread night. So like, this is the date we are going to come up with something else. So whatever hot bread is night, great. And then the Benny, and I even wonder if like Bennie Day just started that we like didn't know what it was going to be. Like it was like, it's Bennie Day, you know, like, you know, the Acme Day of Benny fun, you know, and then looking at the calendar and I was like, oh, the Benedictine Friends kickoff is that day. And I was like, well, that's 150 sisters and 150 students. And I remember going to the head of that organization and being like, hi, I'm Dana. I'm the student president, blah, 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 blah. Hey, would you want to collaborate? And then they're like, well, we have our own thing. And I was like, yeah, okay. I hear that. That's great. And I would love to bring this together. And so the Benedict and Friends like coupled with us. And so we had kind of an instant, like we had, I think, a lot of traction because the sisters were so supportive. And you know, it's one of those things where like the woman who was the head of the Benedict Friends program became a lifelong friend of mine. Like spoke at my wedding. I celebrated many Easters with her. It was Sister Janice Wadle. But I would come up and do Easter, and I remember walking around with my child and her carrying a little basket on her walker at St. Francis and being like, who knew you could have a grandchild with celibacy? And being so proud. And like, it all started with this one, like me begging for a date and being like, hey, like, let's like do a thing together. Like, I know you've got a picnic and we could do a picnic and it could be like a picnic. It's going to be really great together. And that became, I would say, one of like the top few most meaningful friendships in my life, you know, was this woman who, kind of looked at me and was like, hey, like, do you have a Benedictine friend? Like, I should be yours. And I was like, oh, okay. Sure. Like, do I get the date? And so, but I think it was, I think like it's so funny to think about something that was like started like so simply just to not be something else. And like how many other like little tiny decisions in the college's history either become something really significant in identity and or kind of fizzle away because they don't have an advocate or a sponsor.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the beauties of the sisters is they do seem to find the moment where you're ready for like a little tap on the shoulder and say, you're ready for this thing, or let's get to know one another. And they're remarkably good at that.
They are.
Really, aren't they?
Yep.
I mean, you and I both had those conversations of that sort of, yeah. So Kiera, how much of this history did you know about as a student? I mean,
yeah, I think that last year when I came on campus, I was like, oh, it's Bennie Day. This is awesome. Like I get a free t-shirt, I get a flower. This is amazing. But it wasn't until I started meeting with like everyone and like talking about Bennie Day. Like even now I'm learning things from you, Dana. Like I have been waiting months to hear it directly from you. And it's been so interesting because every single Benny has their own twist on what Bennie Day means to them. And I think that that's what makes it so special is that everyone, regardless of if they are a Benny or they know a Benny or they married a Benny or anything like that, they're like, you can say Bennie Day and they go, oh yeah, I know Bennie Day. Like we got a t-shirt and it was a day that was made for us. And so this year, like getting to learn about it And the sisters are going to be celebrating again with us this year, because I think that element got lost. But you were so right when you talk about the sisters having that moment where they just come and tap on your shoulder. They're just like, how are you? Or like, can I pray with you? Like, I think that that's such a special thing that we'll be bringing back this year. But there was so much more that I needed to know that I didn't even know that Bennie Day had founded from.
So now that you're learning more and now that you're planning it, so what's it been like for you to actually be the person responsible for planning this year and in the 25th year, no less?
Yes.
No pressure at all.
Oh yeah, none at all. I have loved every second of it. I have loved, regardless of if I'm getting up for an 8 a.m. meeting and we're going to talk Bennie Day and we're talking numbers, and I'm not a numbers person at all. So I'm like cranking those numbers and I'm like, all right, this checks out. This is going to work. It's been absolutely amazing. Like, I have loved getting to tell people like, oh my gosh, I'm planning Bennie Day. And they're like, you're planning Bennie Day? I'm like, yeah, I am. I'm planning Bennie Day. And it's just like, it's been a dream, honestly. Like, there have been bumps, obviously, because there's always bumps for everything, but I have loved it. I've loved kind of reconnecting to the roots of Bennie Day and such. And so getting the sisters involved, getting faculty involved, bringing the sports in, like really just bringing all of the Bennies together to make sure that this 25th year is something that revives it a little bit and then gets that snowball running again for us to add our own variations to Bennie Day and have our voices be heard.
So Kiera, tell us what's planned this year. How are you marking the 25th anniversary?
Oh, yes. Okay, so we have lots and lots of things happening, which I can't share everything, of course.
Part of the beauty of
It's
Bennie
part
Days,
of the
there's always
beauty.
surprises.
Yes, there are, but we have a lot of small businesses that are going to be like celebrating Bennie Day somehow wherever they are. We have a Bennie Day drink that is coming out. We have Bennie Day flowers. Really, we just have a whole bunch of stuff to bring back and celebrate and bring that unity together.
It's amazing. So Mary, you've had a hand in fostering and nurturing many of our beloved St. Ben's traditions on campus. What do you believe is the significance of a tradition like Bennie Day?
You know, like Dana said, we didn't know at the time it was going to be a tradition, but I think the fact that it just resonates with everyone, and there's as many definitions of Bennie as there are Bennies, is kind of what we like to say. And Bennie Day, every Bennie, whether you're an alum or a student, you find something to celebrate about Bennie Day. You know, it was your previous experience or it's your current experience, and it just the fact that it's the 25th anniversary shows how timeless it is and how much it speaks to students. And of course, there's the t-shirts. Can't forget the t-shirts. Yes. And the tradition of the t-shirts that Dana didn't know she started either. So
Nope.
Kiera, how much fun was it to plan the 25th anniversary Bennie Day t-shirt?
I loved it. So after I saw the Bennie Day shirt from the very first year, I got to looking with Amy for all of the other shirts up until the one from last year, which I obviously, now I get to have that one. But we went back to the simplistic design. We went to a shirt that is very feminine and also is a shirt that we can wear every day and such. And I've honestly had so much fun with it. I've had so much fun like asking a few alumni what they think of the shirts and being like, hey, like, does this get the stamp of approval? Like, what do you think of this? And they're like, yeah, we love the shirt. So we kept it really simple, and hopefully all of the Bennies love it.
Of course, it's a surprise, and everyone's going to have to wait till October 3rd.
Yes.
But we hope that you're all excited about the big reveal.
Yes, and we're bringing back the lead up on our Instagram. So there was a lead up for the shirts, and now we're bringing that back to kind of tease it and bring the excitement back for those shirts. So,
and can I just add that one of the neat things that's special about Bennie's shirts is that we work with the St. Ben's alum, Rachel Lundby.
yes.
She's been doing our Bennie Day t-shirts for a long time, and it's just fun to have that connection.
So speaking of that, oh, nope, apparently we are not going to be able to do that. That's fine. So it's fine. We're going to do a thing. We're not going to do a thing. It's great. So, Mary, what have you noticed about so we've been going back, right? Like, you've been doing this history, you've been going back and looking at all the old shirts. So what have you noticed about how the Bennie Day t-shirts contributed to the sense of tradition and Bennie identity over the years?
Well, they're a kind of a collector's item.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I see students want to make sure that they get the Benny shirt every year that they're here, right? And then you kind of wear those shirts even as an alum with pride, because it kind of also identifies what year you were here, given the Benny shirt that you're wearing, right? And students just clamor for them.
They really do reflect. I think they do reflect the person who's organizing it a little bit and the culture at the time. Are we able now to show this? Oh, look, here we go. We've got some of the old. We've made it like we've got examples of the old ones. So you can see that 2000, that light blue, which is so interesting as you all see that more and more in our current color palette. I love it. Go through. Absolutely. Oh, some old favorites. All right, so. I know. You're gonna have to wait. It's great.
We have all of the boxes just piled up in our office
Yes.
areas right now. We have to protect them because people are like, oh, are those the Benny?
Can I just take a peek? Yeah.
The boxes
Show
are
you later.
sealed. The boxes are sealed.
Just like our lips.
So for years, Bennie Day was really just a campus celebration. But when enough students graduated, you know, we've got Dana and her friends out in the world and others that have followed soon after, it started to become something that alums wanted to celebrate and participate in too. And I really do think it was that 2013, during the centennial celebration, that we have records from the first alum, actually like formal celebrations of Bennie Day. Which ironically coincided with Dana's second tenure on our alumni board. So Kiera, as a current student, what does it mean to you knowing that Bennies around the world are celebrating this day with you?
You know what? I think it really just represents like what it is to be a Benny and be celebrating Bennie Day, because it shows that unity that we've all created, that sisterhood that we've created, that no matter where we are, where we grow into, like where our lives may take us and such, that we all still have that sisterhood that we can lay back to and be with everyone for that. So I think it just means a lot putting in all of the effort for this Bennie Day and getting the support of everyone, but having people around the world, like I struggle to wrap my head around it, because I'm like, this is a support from past alumni who have done this before. They've been in the Bennie Day and they loved it so much that they're still continuing to celebrate it. So it means a ton.
It's awesome. So we have like at least 28 alumni. I think those have been growing kind of at the day, but 28 alumni events happening, including one in London, England too. So definitely check out the website, see if there's one near you. Set up a Zoom call, get together with your Benny friends. We will also have a virtual event as well with Dr. Carol Brees on the power of female, the science of female friendship too. So Mary, we're going to switch gears a little bit, but you're currently working on one of the strategic plan initiatives that is focused on building a residential curriculum. First of all, could you tell everyone what actually is a residential curriculum?
So, one of the hallmarks of Benedictine education is that we live in learning community, right? And so the residential curriculum is an effort to take an educational approach to the co-curricular. So it's all the learning experience kind of outside of the classroom. And it's really taking a look at building a scaffolded approach to key goals that we want students to learn in terms of character development and life skills and those kinds of things. And so we're building a curriculum that allows us to use learning strategies and then assess what's working to add value to the students' college experience here at St. John's and St. Ben's.
That's great too. And I do think, it is, again, as we've gone through strong integration, we've had that moment where our boards have looked at our mission traditions and said, like, are we going to do this going forward? And they, on both campuses, both boards, kind of held fast to our mission traditions, that idea that we're Catholic, Benedictine, liberal arts, residential, college for women with coeducational graduate programs. So that residential part is a huge part of sort of our educational model. But as you said, it is not uniquely Benedictine, but Benedictines living in community is a different. It's a
hallmark.
It's a hallmark, really,
of a Benedictine education.
Yeah.
It's what it makes our charism unique.
So, so then kind of looking at sort of all of those mission traditions, but specifically at gender as one of the strategies at CSB and SJU that we'll be using to build and implement this model on both campuses. Using Bennie Day as an example, could you tell us why programming that targets just Bennies or just Johnnies actually matters for student success?
Yeah, I think, just like you would look at any student population, right? Like you could look at first gen students and use a different strategy. You could look at, underrepresented students, just like we would look at men and women. And I know I'm saying that in the binary just because of the nature of our institutions, recognizing, the full definition of that. But, we would look at that at a strategy for St. John students might be different than a strategy for St. Ben's, for example. Our residential programming it differs a little bit, right? We have FRs at St. John's, we have residence directors at St. Ben's, and because of that reflect the RA position might look a little bit differently, and what we're doing in our residence halls might be a little bit different, right? And so it doesn't, it just is an opportunity for us to address the different populations that we're trying to get at in a way that works for them.
And we do that throughout our student development, as well, right? Like we have first gen, we have first gen clubs, we have organizations sort of cross sort of all affinities as well as this, but this is an example that we're really using for that residential model based on the nature of our institutions. So this seems like a good day to talk about the fact that there's also a Johnny Day. So tell me a little bit about what's happening with Johnny Day. Maybe both of you have some sense of what's happening with that.
I mean, I don't know too much, I'll be honest. I know that the Johnnies are doing their golf carts, which they've done for a few years. They're doing
it is a great idea.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little bit longer from class to class on the St. John's
Oh, they
campus.
have such fun with it.
Yes. I believe that they're catering wings. So there's going to be like a wing day. So you can go and get wings. And then obviously they're doing their t-shirts too. And then I think that Ben Bugbee is hosting a Jeopardy night possibly.
Ben is the St. John's
Yes,
Senate
our
president.
St. John's president. Yes. But that's,
Okay.
I don't know too much about it. But
Yeah. Well, I just, for both days, I think that the neat thing is it's a chance for students to celebrate each other. It's kind of like, when it's your birthday, I get a chance to celebrate
absolutely.
you, and it's all about you. And I think that's kind of what we're doing now with Johnny and Bennie Day is,
Love that.
Thursday is all about Bennies and Friday is all about Johnnies. And it's just a way to celebrate and be happy for each other and the unique cultures we have on our campuses, and the appreciation really, and the love we have for each other, right, as a community. So it's really, I think, turned into something wonderful.
That's really great. So, Mary, what do you hope Bennies do carry on from the tradition of Bennie Day into the future?
I think just the sentiment that's behind Bennie Day. I think Dana said it quite eloquently when she talked about, how where do we really want to have our own self identity, right? That's ours, that's substantive, and that's ours. And I think, Kiera said, everybody knows Bennie Day, right? I mean, from alums to current students. And I think standing in that pride, standing in the spirit of St. Ben's, standing on the shoulders of all the sisters who gave us the college in the first place. I mean, it's just, Bennie Day is just really, it's a sense of spirit, a sisterhood, a celebration of sisterhood is probably how I would summarize it.
Yeah. And as I said, like as somebody who's been here for a while and seen some of the conversations that we were having, even really 6-7 years ago, really around claiming Bennie identity and knowing that not every Bennie generationally felt that kind of connection. What I think has been great about Bennie Day is we are seeing maybe students who, while they were here, didn't use the term Bennie. That wasn't the way they referred to themselves, now standing in pride in that, and seeing all of you being so proud to be Bennies, I think is we hear so often brings them much joy. So Kiera, what are your plans to help students learn and understand the tradition of Bennie Day and why we celebrate it?
Oh my goodness. This has been so fun because obviously I presented to the Senate and I'm like, hey you guys, like this is what Bennie Day is. This is the background to Bennie Day. And the biggest thing about me picking this school personally was the relations that you can create. And so through that, I think a big thing has just been word of mouth, like spreading like from one person to the next. They're like, oh, you're planning Bennie Day. And I'm like, yeah, but did you know that this is how Bennie Day was founded? And this is what we're continuing to bring to the plate. And like, we're here to take up space. We're here to stand, as you said, like in pride of like, I am a Bennie and like once a Bennie, forever a Bennie, I think is a really, really beautiful aspect. But yeah, just word of mouth has been really, really big on campus because I mean, it is a small school in some ways. And so if you say something, it's going to get around. And so I definitely have been utilizing that to my advantage with Bennie Day and telling people how we started, as well as telling the Johnnies as well, and just being like, hey, like, this is Bennie Day. Like, this is our day to celebrate us and to be who we're meant to be and to continue to grow into like what it means to be a Bennie. And then on Friday, like, we're going to come and support you and love you just as much because it's our day and it's your day. So yeah, I think word of mouth has been a really, really important thing. Going back to the roots of getting the sisters in has been really, really important. But yeah, just full circling almost back to where it started and remembering how, what's the word that I'm looking for? Just how special it is, I think is really the best way that I can put it. Yes.
I do think there's that idea, Dana. I'm thinking back to your sort of thinking about creating something unique and individual to that idea too of it's lovely to be invited to somebody else's thing. It's a lovely invitation and that's meaningful, right? It's like, thank you for that too. But there is also an opportunity and sometimes what you need is also something that's your own. And so I think that's partly why I think sort of why this has resonated. You definitely saw a need for something that clearly has been meaningful. So I'd love to actually ask each of you the same question. So how have your experiences with Bennie Day had an impact on you personally? What matters about Bennie Day to each of you? Let's start with you, Dana.
I think for me, like, I mean, for sure, like just a real sense of pride, you know, and that there's this opportunity and kind of like a sacred day of sisterhood once a year, that I find really meaningful. And also the fact that like nothing is lost in abundance, you know, so the fact that we celebrate Bennies, the fact that we celebrate Johnnies, like there's nothing lost there. It's all good. And so I think, like that's, if I think about, you know, being just really proud to have gone to a women's college, and having, you know, this kind of coordinate relationship going forward, and without losing the history is just so meaningful to me and something I'm really proud of.
I love that. So Kiera, how about you? What about, so is it like what experiences, like what has this experience meant to you and sort of what does Bennie Day mean to you?
Yeah, I think Bennie Day, like really, Dana, you sum it up so well. Obviously, you created the day and everything. But I think coming in now, 24 years later, and last year, kind of seeing what it was and then what it can be this year, I think it's been really, really meaningful to just help me find my own voice. Because I've always known what it's been to be a Bennie. I've known what it's like to speak my voice and take up space and everything. But really, like through diving into what Bennie Day was and what it continues to be, like it almost makes me emotional a little bit because it's
I'll cry with you. I cry every time.
Right. It makes me realize how much more I'm capable of, and like to want to push everyone around me who was a Bennie to be like, hey, like we are able, I'm gonna sob, we are able to be so much more than we even realize, and we can lean on each other, and we're all going to be right there to help support each other and push each other right back up, and even just be like, hey, like what you're doing, I don't really agree with it, and I think that you can be so much better if you did this. And then like just giving them that green, that hey, you're on the right track, we're here to support you. So just finding how much more potential every single Bennie here has been really special to me.
So Mary, how about you?
No, I'm gonna leave it there.
Leave it there. I love it. I love that. So 25 years from now, what do we want Bennie Day to look like? So as we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of Bennie Day, what do you hope endures? I'll start with you this time, Mary.
Oh my goodness. Well, I hope I'm still around. It's timeless. So I think everything that we've talked about tonight, I hope that all future, generations of Bennies get to experience that same sense of pride in everything that being a Benny stands for. And I hope they're still doing the t-shirts.
Yes.
How about you, Kiera?
I want to see Bennie Day to continue to evolve. I want to see Bennies to continue to bring their voices to Bennie Day and have their own spin on it as our community continues to evolve. Right now, Dana, you haven't seen it yet, but we have a tree in Gretzky, and every time that I walk by it, I really just think of the fact that the roots of St. Ben's are always the same. St. Joe is the same, the bones are the same, but the tree continues to evolve and change and grow, and the seasons will change. We'll have great seasons, we'll have bad seasons, but the thing is that we're all one unit. And so regardless of how much we change, we go across the world and such, like, we're always still going to be that Benny tree. And so I think that I just want to see Bennies to, like I said, like, find where they're meant to be, whether it is like whatever major or minor, whatever, like, they'll figure it out and it'll all work out. And that's the thing. I just want to see Bennies continue to using their voice and say what they want to say and not apologize for it and be like, this is who I am and this is okay and this is beautiful. So I want to see Bennie Day to continue to just be what the Bennies need it to be.
That idea of that rooted, and that is the stabilitas, right? It's that idea, right? Sister Joan Chittister says it really well, but if you're not familiar with that Benedictine idea of changing but in place, being rooted, right? We are grounded, like who we are, what it is to be a Benny, what it is to be St. Ben's stays the same, but we change, we evolve in that. So I love that idea. Very Benedictine of you. So Dana, last word on this particular question. 25
I feel
years.
like I want to comment on Mary and say, like, I just feel like you should leave it there. No, I mean, I think that was a beautiful sentiment.
So, all right, this feels like a perfect place to pause in the program and see if we have some questions from our audience. Remember, you can all submit a question. Amy, do we have any questions from our audience?
Yes, we do. So the first question I have is from Jen, the class of 2006. And this question is for Kiera. Kiera, what are some of the greatest challenges students are facing right now? And how do special celebrations like Bennie Day help students meet those challenges?
Oh, this is a
Good
beautiful question. Yeah, this is really amazing. I think that, busy Benny syndrome? Oh my gosh, is it ever real? It is so real. I'm a double major, double minor, and
Dana laughs because she knows it too.
Yes, I am like running all over the place. And the biggest thing about having these days is it's a second to be like, okay, I can do this. Like, I'm not alone in what I'm doing right now. Like, there are other people here to support me. And it's a second to just step back and be present. Like, you don't have to worry about anything. Like, you can spend an hour, 2 hours of your time, even like if it's 5 minutes of your time too, to just come, be present, enjoy the community, and recharge a battery that you didn't even know that you needed to recharge. So, I mean, you get so busy. It is so, so real. But finding the time to just slow down and enjoy the right now, and then having these set in space times where you can come together and you know that other people are going through that same thing, I think is a really, really important thing with traditions here.
Love that. Thanks for that. Amy, do we have another question?
Yes, this question is for Dana. Dana, I understand you're coming back to campus to celebrate Bennie Day with the community in person and have been working with Kiera to plan some interactions with students. Is that right? And what do you have planned for your trip?
I am coming back, and I am excited to connect with some of the folks that I remember from my days at St. Ben's and through serving on the alumni board. And then I am excited to do whatever Kiera needs. So that's my plan for the day. So I think I'm going to be serving coffee, and I think there's a bingo, and I am just excited to be there. So it's been a while since I've been on campus during the school year. I think it's been several years. And so I think part of what I'm just excited about is the energy of the students and just seeing like St. Ben's in action. And so I'm really excited for that.
It's fantastic.
Kiera is my captain.
Seems like you're going to be in good hands.
I think I'll be okay. I'm okay with it.
I'm not sure who is going to answer this question. It's a general question, but it's from Kate, class of 1999. And she would like to know what makes Bennie Day different from year to year? How do students know how to plan Bennie Day year over year?
Oh, I can definitely take this one. So the biggest thing about Bennie Day is the community relation senator has the absolute honor of planning Bennie Day and such. And so each person who comes up, we never see it as a competition, if that's kind of part of the question. It's always just, hey, this is what Bennie Day means to me specifically. And this is what I want to bring. And these are my ideas that I want to have. And so I think that the variation just comes with the voice of the Bennie who's being present. And just knowing that each and every year, it's that Bennie's voice. Like I've never seen it as like, oh my gosh, the person who did it last year. Like if only thing, it's a snowball to, oh my gosh, I love that you did this. Let's incorporate it again. And that's kind of how the tradition of Bennie Day continues to evolve and such. And so, yeah, just realizing that all of us Bennies have different voices, and that's what we're going to bring forward for Bennie Day.
This question is from Ashley, class of 2010. How do Johnnies celebrate Bennie Day, or do they even celebrate it?
Yeah.
I think you're probably best. I mean, but I think we all sort of see it on
Yeah,
campus, but-
absolutely they do. You know, they they want some of the t-shirts, you know. But I mean, I think especially, you know, in the spirit of that we're moving towards strong integration, and even before that, you know, Johnny's the students are kind of one big community. And so Johnny's come out in droves to help celebrate Bennies. They're happy for them. They're ready to celebrate them on that particular day. They participate. One year, I remember the Senate, I believe the St. John Senate gave Bennies flowers on Bennie Day, or the Bennie senators. And so it's just, both campuses are kind of abuzz in celebrating Bennie Day. And then the next day it reverts to St. John's and everybody celebrates Johnny Day. So it's a very fun and a very full week.
Yeah, and I think one of the lovely things about Bennie Day and Johnny Day too is, and I was an athlete myself and I coached the volleyball team, and it's lovely. And I think that sometimes homecoming at other institutions, and probably a little bit even our own as sort of the start, is about like one sports team. And I think with Johnny Day and Bennie Day, it's about the entire student body. And that's what's really another thing that's really fun about it, is that idea that we're celebrating what it is to be and everything we love about our Bennies or our Johnnies. And so you see, I think that that intentionality, I think, is really lovely as well.
And what it means to be at these institutions,
Yes.
right? Like it's bonding our students to St. John's and St. Ben's.
So do we have another question, Amy?
We do. Okay, this question is from Mary, class of 1984. We've been relying on the sisters to support St. Ben's for more than 100 years, and I loved hearing how they played a role in the start of Bennie Day. I know we are grateful and appreciative of the relationship St. Ben's has with the monastery, but as the sisters age, how is the college preparing for a time when the sisters can no longer be as present or visible on campus?
Sure. I'll let folks answer. I'll let Mary answer that especially. But the one thing I will say is I'll encourage anyone who's interested to go back to our first episode from last season, where prioress Karen Rose was our guest, and she speaks really directly to this as well. But Mary, if you want to have some, I have some thoughts myself, but if you have some things you want to share.
I guess I can start. We all, Sister Brian Spain told me, she was my mentor. Sometimes we have to just live into the answers. And so I don't want to purport to have all the answers to that question, but, we do continue with Benedict and Friends. We still have over 100 students involved in that program. I think, we're very aware of this, and we're trying to plan and prepare. One of the things that we've done is we have a Benedictine Institute at St. John's that's really kind of preparing the laity for carrying on the Benedictine charism of our institutions. We're very intentional about training our employees and talking to our student leaders about Benedictine values, Benedictine education, what all of that means. And so, we realize we can't just be reliant on the sisters, although we are still fortunate to have plenty left that are very engaged with our students. So.
Yeah, I do think it is that intentionality. I think before it was something sort of in the water. You got it by sort of watching, being either as a colleague or as a faculty member, as a resident, a faculty resident, whatever it was. But I think it does require some intentionality. So you'll see that across the board. And even within our office, we spend time having those conversations, training, deep learning. We have the opportunity for Benedictine Institute sort of training as well. And we see that actually at the board level, there's a lot of, as we even do think about succession planning with leadership, we're also really thinking about that from a mission perspective as well. So learning about the Benedictine charism is something that we are trying to sort of embed at every single level. So do we have time for one more question? Okay.
Yeah, so last question. Laura, class of 2007, is wondering, what role does the administration play in Bennie Day? Do faculty, staff, do they care or participate in the celebrations?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, everybody's aware that it's Bennie Day, and everybody's welcome to come and celebrate. It tends to be kind of centered in the Goretzky. And so I think, I think a lot of people, yes, they do. And I'll leave it at that. Kiera, I don't know if you want to talk about anything.
Yeah, we have kind of emailed professors and told them, we're like, hey, it's Bennie Day, like it's our 25th anniversary. And then I sent them just like an email of how Bennie Day was founded so that they know as well in case they weren't previously aware. So they're more than welcome to join the celebration. We've told them that we would love to see them. We'd love to have them just be involved in any way that they feel comfortable in. But yeah, I think that they definitely offer their support every year continuously. They make sure that the Bennies know that it's Bennie Day, and then tell everyone kind of what Bennie Day is, especially in like a college success class. But yes, I think that they're definitely involved.
Yeah, they are. But I will say too, it's also led by our students.
It is.
Right.
It is,
and I
definitely.
think, and that's a really intentional choice too by administration. It is for Bennies by Bennies. And we are all there to just support that for sure.
However, I have seen alums on that particular day wear their T-shirts and
Yes.
things. And so, that's been kind of a fun
Yeah.
day.
Remember, if you are with your Bennies celebrating Bennie Day, please send us those photos. We would love to have them. CSB alumni at csbsju.edu. So with that, Dana, Mary, and Kiera, thank you so much for taking this time to chat with us. I know our virtual audience appreciates the opportunity to learn the history of Bennie Day. Dana, thank you for creating the tradition. And the legacy that we love, really, truly, thank you. When it honors the Bennie spirit so pointedly. Plus, Kiera, we all love the opportunity to hear some real insider information from an actual student that we wouldn't get to hear anywhere else. And Mary, hearing from you and your important work guiding the student success team and all that you have given St. Ben's and St. John's for so long, it really is a pleasure and a privilege. So thank you for joining us this evening. Audience, we thank you too. We're delighted that you took an hour out of your time to spend this evening with us and bring St. Ben's into your home. And now here's the one last word from Marcia Malum.
Thank you again, Kiera, Mary, Dana, and Heather, for your time this evening. And audience, you can share additional questions or comments on tonight's episode through the evaluation form that will be emailed to you from the Alumni Relations Office. Please visit the Bennie Day event page to find a Bennie Day celebration taking place near you. This concludes tonight's episode of St. Ben's at Home. Please check out all the past episodes of St. Ben's at Home on our website. The next episode will feature St. Ben's Campus Ministry and a conversation with Director Cindy Gonzalez, class of 2014. This episode will air on Monday, November 4th. Thank you all for attending. Have a wonderful evening.